There are just over 170 hours left until the pre-election silence begins in Poland's presidential election. 1 week before the first round, a survey by international pollsters AtlasIntel has emerged. The results were surprising. The lead is Karol Nawrocki with 29.1% support. Behind him is Rafał Trzaskowski with 28.9%. The others are far behind. This contrasts with most Polish polls, which put Trzaskowski at around 30%, with Nawrocki trailing by 8 to 10 points. Sociologists take note of the number of people surveyed in this poll. Polish pollsters usually interview about 1,000 people. Here, that number exceeds 5,000. This reflects a certain state of balance between the two biggest competitors. We see a small advantage for Mr. Nawrocki. Many people suspected that was the case, but there was no evidence for it. Here, we now have clear proof that this is indeed a real possibility, supported by a very well-made survey. The polling company AtlasIntel had the most accurate prediction of the US presidential election. Their research also accurately predicted the results of elections in Mexico, Argentina, Chile, France, Romania, and Spain. This is a company with a great reputation. It obtained very accurate measurements when it came to presidential elections in the United States and Latin America. Therefore, one can be confident in this result. This poll also predicts a victory for Karol Nawrocki in the second round, securing him the presidency. The survey was conducted from May 5th to the 8th, that is, after Nawrocki's visit to the United States and meeting in the Oval Office with Donald Trump. This is the aftermath of a very successful campaign, especially during the presidential debates. In addition, I think the visit to the United States may have already been reflected in this poll. The Americans are keeping a close eye on what is happening with the elections in Poland. This can be evidenced by recent posts from the American embassy in Warsaw on X, formerly known as Twitter. Freedom of speech and democracy are values that have long united the United States with our European partners and allies. As Poles prepare to express their voice in the upcoming elections, these fundamental principles remain at the core of our shared commitment to free and fair electoral processes. Both in the United States and in Poland, citizens have the right to choose their leaders and shape the future through a democratic process. These rights are increasingly being violated in Poland thanks to Rafał Trzaskowski's party, the Civic Platform, which leads the current coalition government. They seem to fear impending electoral defeat. The government's polling has only been getting worse, which AtlasIntel seems to have picked up on. More than 55% of those surveyed disapprove of the actions of the government and Prime Minister Donald Tusk, and Trzaskowski, despite posing as an independent candidate, seems unable to shake off the association with his party. Hence, in the AtlasIntel survey, more respondents had a negative opinion of Rafał Trzaskowski than of Karol Nawrocki. Some sociologists suspect the upcoming elections will function as a kind of referendum on the current government. The court has decided to place Mieszko R. under arrest. The student is accused of a brutal murder that occurred Wednesday evening on the campus of the University of Warsaw. He will be taken into custody in Radom for 3 months. There, he will undergo psychiatric tests. Their results will determine whether the prosecutor's office will demand the highest penalty, i.e. life imprisonment. Wednesday's gruesome attack resulted in the death of an innocent 53-year-old woman, a wife and a mother of 3. Mieszko R. also severely wounded a security guard. The Warsaw Downtown District Court has decided to place Mieszko R. in custody for 3 months. The prosecutor's office is satisfied because our request was granted in full. In the coming weeks, the suspect will be subjected to psychiatric examinations. The fate of the case and the fate of the suspect depends on these tests. The tests are to answer the question of whether the suspect is sane. The court itself has doubts about the suspect's state of consciousness, the defense attorney believes. There are very strong doubts as to our client's sanity. This is very important right now. On Thursday, the prosecutor's office charged Mieszko R. with 3 offenses: murder with special cruelty, attempted murder, and defiling a corpse. First, murder with particular cruelty, punishable by imprisonment for no less than 15 years, possibly life imprisonment. On Wednesday, third-year law student at the University of Warsaw, Mieszko R., brutally murdered a female porter. There was an attack on the woman, who ordered him to move away as she was closing the door to the auditorium. There was a very sudden, brutal attack. The murder weapon was an axe. The students could not believe what had happened right next to the place where classes are held. At first, we couldn't believe it. The attacker also severely injured a security guard who rushed to the woman's aid. It is not known why he attacked. What is known is that he roamed around the campus for an hour. Concerned students wrote about it on an internal social media group. They are writing in our group that he was hanging around there for 1 hour. Hey, a request from Dominique to be careful, because a suspicious individual with an axe is wandering around campus. The door from the hall, 403, is locked, so if anyone is late, please knock. Literally 30 minutes earlier on the study circle group. The warnings proved to be justified. The 22-year-old was only stopped by a State Protection Service officer who happened to be nearby. We made sure to acquire possible recordings. We're talking about surveillance, recordings of bystanders, and so we did. During the first 24 hours, 20 witnesses were interviewed. During the murder, classes were being held right next door. Many people recorded the entire event. There are questions as to why nobody took a chair out of the room or a fire extinguisher, some object with which he could have incapacitated the man, instead of just recording. At this point, the results of the suspect's toxicology tests are not yet known. Defenders believe that Mieszko R. was not under the influence of psychoactive substances. He had a reputation for being quiet and calm. This is likely a case of a suppressed psychopathic personality. Due to the death of the porter, Thursday was a day of mourning at the University of Warsaw. Black flags were flown on the university's buildings. To this day, the academic community cannot recover from the situation. Today, again, the law faculty is not holding classes so that everyone can get through this mourning in peace. The student party planned for this weekend has also been cancelled. The biggest tragedy is the death of an innocent woman, a wife and a mother who left behind 3 children. May 8th, 6:08 p.m. local time. White smoke rose from the chimney of the Sistine Chapel, and moments later, the sound of bells filled St. Peter's Basilica.
La pace sia con tutti voi.
Peace be with you all. Beloved brothers and sisters, this is the first greeting of the risen Christ, the Good Shepherd, who gave his life for the flock of God. I too would like this greeting of peace to enter your hearts, to reach your families, to all people, wherever they may be, to all nations, to all the earth. Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, an American clergyman who took the name Leo XIV, became the new pope. He held his first Mass in the Sistine Chapel before noon today. Accompanied by the cardinals who elected him 24 hours earlier, he prayed that his pontificate would help the Catholic Church become a beacon that illuminates the dark nights of this world. In a special way, God has called me by your election to succeed the Prince of the Apostles, and has entrusted me with this treasure so that, with his help, I can be its faithful steward for the good of the entire mystical body of the Church. The Chicago-born 69-year-old, the first pope from the United States, began his homily with a few words in his native language.
I'll begin with a word in English, and the rest is in Italian. But I want to repeat the words from the responsorial psalm. I will sing a new song to the Lord because he has done marvels. And indeed, not just with me, but with all of us.
The new pope has dual citizenship, U.S. and Peru.
What greater honor could there be? And we were a little bit surprised, but very happy. It's just a great, absolutely great honor.
We are celebrating a historic moment for Peru and the world. This milestone not only marks the first American to ascend to the throne of St. Peter, but also the first time a Peruvian who resided in our country for over 20 years is leading the Catholic Church. He has worked in northern Peru for decades, first as a missionary and then as bishop of the Diocese of Chiclayo from 2015 to 2023. We would like him to focus on peace, focus on family unity, and focus on the things that Francis started and to continue that work. I think there's an interesting synthesis in him. He comes from the US, but most of his priestly ministry, his episcopal ministry, was in South America, Peru, which is a missionary country. A good experience and good baggage that the new pope brings with him. The church is supposed to be missionary. It is supposed to seek people. He was a missionary and will be a missionary as pope. Prevost did not become a cardinal until 2023. So far, he has given few interviews to the media. He is known for his modesty and even shyness.
He's a very down-to-earth human being, not interested in telling people off, not least interested in admonishing people, not interested in fighting with people. He's not going to fight with Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. He certainly has a different vision of the world, which is more connected with Jesus and the gospel. But he'll seek in a nice, quiet, peaceful way.
Pope Francis's successor inherits a series of serious challenges, from the budget deficit to divisions over LGBT issues, as well as the role of women in the church.
The first was the choice of name. The last Pope Leo was the Pope who died in the early 20th century. He was known as the Pope of the workers. He was really concerned about issues of social justice and started a tradition called Catholic social teaching.
Just how the new Pope will manage these issues remains to be seen. Blow for blow, de-escalation seems like a pipe dream. Pakistan and India are engaged in wartime operations. Although neither side is talking about a full-scale conflict, what is happening along the border between the countries amounts to a war. In the air, the first air clashes are taking place. On the ground forces are preparing for an offensive. It seems that, at this point, neither side is looking for a way to reach an agreement, but only a pretext to use more powerful weapons. Airstrikes, artillery shelling, and kamikaze drones. This is a direct war that is spilling further from the disputed Kashmir region with each passing day. When the first explosion occurred, dark clouds covered everything, and we knelt down and crawled into the house where we sought shelter. Then we heard 4 explosions. The situation was very bad. Our children screamed and cried. We prayed, "Oh God, have mercy and save us." While in the first days of the conflict, India argued that it was only bombing terrorist hideouts, today, it is shelling the entire line of contact. Pakistani authorities say they are ready for a larger-scale clash. Pakistan will attack at its own time, place, and with its own means. When Pakistan strikes, the whole world will know. It will resonate everywhere. India is destroying Pakistani radars and air defense systems. In the first few days of fighting, the Indian Air Force was said to have suffered losses in an air battle between Pakistani F-16s and India's French-made Dassault Rafale. Both sides claim to have neutralized the enemy aircraft. This morning, Indian forces attacked radars and air defense systems at several locations in Pakistan. The Indian response was in the same domain and with the same intensity as the Pakistani response. At this point, it appears that both New Delhi and Islamabad are trying to respond to enemy strikes with similar force. It is all about defense doctrine. Both countries are nuclear powers. Pakistan has repeatedly stressed that it will use nuclear warheads if it deems the threat from India too great.
United is a